We're playing a quick battle before we dive into our game with Alfredino. And the name of the game is Queen Bess Micro. You can fire away every 1.5 shots, and using that you can actually hit units at the same time with Queen Bess. It is a pretty brutal strategy, as you can actually double the DPS of Queen Bess this way at the cost of a ton of ammunition. So you definitely have to be a bit careful, but on the map you can see I have this hill over here to my advantage, and I can actually use that to make it way easier to aim at these greenskins. As I say that, I miss, of course, but it'll get better as they get closer. I also have a Lord to slow down the forces of the greenskins using summons. So I'll summon some Rotting Prometheans to begin doing that. And now we can see here, Power of Queen Bess. It basically shoots in a straight line. So you just aim directly at the formation you want to hit, and it's almost a guaranteed shot. Rotting Prometheans are now in combat. And as for Nessa, she's actually pretty good against Grom, surprisingly enough. So I'll be using her to try and take him out when possible. There's a few skirmishers on the sides, and my front line will have to worry a tiny bit. Let's slow down the Kraken's pull to assist in that fight, and take out some of these archers. There we go. Pretty solid hit. And hopefully I can get them routing off soon enough using my deck gunners and my mortars too. A few of the skirmishers do manage to break in also. And it looks like some chariots are coming in, but I do have crabs for mass, so I'm feeling okay. Let's see, Queen Bess, it can't fire down on the infantry, which is which is a little bit bad since I can't actually win the frontline fight. So I'll have to be a bit careful there. But so far I'm doing okay. I can net down Grom, kill him with Nessa, and then continue pounding down with Queen Bess. The gunnery wight too, with his abilities, will be able to help a ton. I can give Queen Bess more ammunition, and that should help me out for the fight. Another shot into the archers should get them very close to routing off. And with Grom the paunch down, I think I have done it. A little bit of a scrappy game. Some spells do hit up my deck gunners, but at this point I've done enough damage to the greenskin front line where I'm pretty confident this game is mine. Just slow down a few AoEs to finish off the rest of the goblins, and then continue using Queen Bess to hit up these archers. Like I said, it fires like a cannon, so you just aim directly at them and shoot. And there we go, that's the goblin archers routed off. Means that the scurvy dogs can now come in and do a bit of cleanup. Bess looks like she is going to be getting shut down by these chariots though. So that might actually be the end of Bess. I'll pull away some of the zombies to keep them safe. And then now that the archers are so beat up, the scurvy dogs should be able to win that fight. Now I did say I felt like I was pretty ahead, but with the backline compromised, things are a little bit scarier. Still though, I can man up Queen Bess again and continue firing at the archers to just to finish off the game. As long as they're gone, I think Nessa should be able to win against Grom and any of the chariots. So yeah, that should be good. Dogs will be chasing off the rest of the archers. There are still a unit of Savage Orc Big Guns though, and actually killing them off is going to be a bit of a task. I'll net down Grom to try and kill him off here, and the goal of that is to try and break the leadership of these Savage Orcs, since the Savage Orcs are actually pretty scary here. They have anti-large, they'll be very strong versus Nessa, and they're going to be causing a lot of problems for sure. Queen Bess too, out of ammunition. Things could go very south here. I do have Scab Scrats though, and I think that's going to be my saving grace. Plus the cycle charging of the scurvy dogs. Looks like that may just be enough to win out this situation. I've also started walking away with Queen Bess, and that's so that I can fire in onto this unit of Savage Orcs. And there we go, a very close range shot coming on in. And there we go. That's Queen Bess for you guys. Closes out the game with a wonderful final shot. My dogs are still alive, and that's going to be GG. Nice. All right. Absolutely brutal game for the Greenskins. Sadly, it wasn't able to shut down Queen Bess. And there we go, 2,200 value. Nothing too crazy. It could have been higher, but the terror and the routing on all these troops definitely helped quite a bit. Aranessa did okay too. She's actually pretty good against Grom, surprisingly enough. And putting your lords on crabs actually works out pretty well. Still though, I don't think this build is very competitive. Although Queen Bess manual fire is still really fun. So here we go. First match against Alfredino for some practice. I'm bringing a Queen Bess build up against his archer build. He has some savage orcs, some archers. Let's see how it goes. If you want to shoot at the max range of Bess, you aim at about the first tick over there. And we'll see if that hits. It looks like it won't, but that's completely fine. I'll just continue firing away. And I don't have to worry about skirmishers too much, as I do have... well, yeah, I don't have to worry about skirmishers too much. I have handgunners here, which will be pretty good. Now Alfredino is dodging Bess's shots. I will have to... you know what? I'm going to hold fire a tiny bit, and I'm going to turn Bess to shoot at some of these goblins now. Like I said, it's... shots are pretty straightforward, so you can actually hit some troops, but darn it, a miss onto those goblins. Very unfortunate. And the skirmishers are coming in. Let's use Bess and try and shut them down. Let's see, a pretty decent shot coming on in. There's a few goblin skirmishers in the back. My bats are here to assist, but looks like some Durkat squigs are actually going to be causing a few problems on my front line. And the mainline engagement is underway. Let's go ahead and give Queen Bess the buffs. Start firing in onto those archers. The archers want to be taken care of early, just so that yeah, I want to kill off the archers early, since they are the main DPS for the Greenskins. Bomb dives into my zombies, but the zombies are very tanky. So let's see how this plays out. There are a lot of archers here. Bess does take out one unit of them. The next one is here, and I'm going to hit them with the Kraken's Pull, and then use my dogs to try and keep Queen Bess safe. My gun bats are going to be, I guess, there's multiple casters for the Greenskin, so it's not really worth using my bats to snipe off casters at this point. And it looks like Bess may get shut down here, but it could go either way. I'm throwing down a Scab Scrath, although I think that might have been a bit of a waste. And I'm going to see if I can take out these Rusty Errors. They are a very big threat, and hopefully I can shut them down quickly. As for my Scurvy Dogs, they do really well in the fight. And Queen Bess is still able to fire, but Grom is now diving on in. And we'll have to see if Silostra has what it takes to actually defeat him. As for my caster, I'm going to spawn some summons to chase off the rest of the archers. And then the hope is that I'll be able to win the single entity fight in the late game. My knights will be able to deal with all the archers. But Bess is about to get shut down. I do still have my deck droppers, and they're going to be pretty proficient here. As for Queen Bess, it does draw in a lot of the skirmishers that I'll be able to finish off. But there's still quite a few forces left. Grom included is going to be pretty scary. My caster getting beat up by this river troll hag is not too pleasant. But Bess is still able to stay online, and I'm going to use it to hit up these blobs of infantry as best as I can. My knights have done pretty well against the archers, and Bess will still be able to take out a good amount of the infantry. So I'm pretty confident on that front. My deck droppers are getting shot down by the goblins. That's not the absolute worst, as I should be able to... oh man, another miss. Let's see, I should be able to keep these handgun deck gunners alive. Some more summons coming down to deal with the infantry here. and we'll have to see how this goes. I am getting swarmed pretty hard here, but I do still have my dogs, which I completely forgot about, and that is going to be pretty rough. But still, I might be able to pull things back here now that the dogs are back in play. They're going to be diving right on into the greenskin forces. I have a scab scrath at the ready, and hopefully it does the damage I need to clear out these forces. Getting in a pretty nice hit, a charge into the back of the savage orcs too, and we'll see if I'm able to rout them off. It looks like probably not, and I think that will likely be it for this poor old best build. Still, things were decently close. I think the skirmishers, I didn't really have a ton to deal with them. But I feel like if my dog micro was better, it would have gone well, although I think Queen Bess didn't really pay for itself there. I did manage to kill off the archers, but the front line was a little bit too threatening. Take a look at some values. Queen Bess, 1000 value, not great, not terrible, but not enough to win out the game. The skirmishers were pretty good. I think this is more dealing with gun bats and skirmishers. If I had gone for a heavy gun build, I'd be a bit more comfortable here. And Silostra, she didn't do amazingly either. In fact, there were fairly few archers in this greenskin build, and instead the rush elements were much scarier. Still, GG, well played. So here we go, the next matchup against Alfredino. I'm running the more classic build this time, and we'll see how it goes. I have tons of handgunners. I have a lot of bombers. My front line is fairly formidable. They'll be able to hold back the goblins, and the mortars will be able to pressure these savage orcs. They'll also be able to fire in on the archers, and hopefully that slows the approach of the greenskins enough for me to get in some good value here. I have a load of bombers also, and the scurvy dogs in the back to scout any of the any fanatics that might be in my back line. River Troll Hag, not especially scary, but I'll have to be careful that she doesn't net down Luther. And with the skirmishers now taking to the flanks, the plan is I'm going to have my deck gunners focusing on this right flank, while Luther makes sure that Grom doesn't do too much damage to my front line. My handguns will pressure the River Troll Hag, and eventually I'll want my mortars to kill off the archers. And you know what? Yeah, I should probably do that soon. So, but for now, let's go ahead and dive in on Grom. My dogs are in a good position to defend, and I'm going to try and get these savage orcs to get shot along the side. Looks like someone's calling me too. Go ahead and hang that up and try to escape with Luther. He's in a pretty rough situation. Getting surrounded. I'll need to heal him up. And as for my infantry fights, things are going okay. The orcs have engaged, and now it's just a question on whether or not I can defend the backline, and if I'll have enough guns to actually win the day here. Luther is going to be diving in back to go ahead and hold up against the all these skirmishers. His terror will be of a huge use here. But the greenskins are beginning to push in, and I need my mortars to be focused firing the archers now, as they are the next main threat. The scurvy dogs have done well. They will be able to chase off most of the mobility for the greenskins, but is it a little too late as the greenskins do push into my backline, and now I'm going to need a ton of archers to actually peel them off here. Grom is quite a beast. He's going to be getting chased down by Luther, and it looks like my caster actually could be going down, but Luther does get a pretty nice dive in on Grom. Question is, will it be enough? Let's take a look at the situation. Grom is still at pretty decent HP. A lot of my guns are compromised. I have killed off these savage orc archer boys, but it feels like my backline just really got compromised a little bit too quickly. Still though, Luther is putting in some decent work. I have lost my caster, but I think Alfredino just took this win very solidly. A nice engage. And we'll see if I'm able to pull it back. I still have the Scurvy Dogs, and I still have Luther. He will be able to snipe out the River Troll Hag, but he'll have a much harder time sniping out Grom. I need my archers, or I need my dogs on top of the greenskin archers ASAP too. So I'll send them in. And hopefully I can get them to rout, but it looks like that likely won't be the situation. I do rout off the River Troll Hag though. Scurvy Dogs are doing okay. But can I kill off Grom? We'll have to see. I'm going to send Luther in on top of him now. We'll throw down the debuffs, and to make sure that Luther doesn't get sniped out, I'll send my dogs into the back line. Go ahead and dive in right here, trying to hit up these Night Goblin archers, but Grom does disengage. And I think that's probably gonna be it. A very nice win for Alfredino. I'm honestly not sure what exactly went wrong, but I did feel like there were definitely some misplays there. GG, well played. And nice. Those skirmishers are actually pretty annoying to deal with in this situation. The alternative is I could have been ignoring them instead and focus firing the Savage Orcs. I think a few of my handguns too were marching forwards when they shouldn't have. But pretty rough, very one-sided. And I might have to change things up here. Instead going for more deck gunners perhaps. And then focus firing the infantry. But I really need a way to deal with these with the skirmishers. Alternatively, I could try and ignore them. And I think also chasing Grom too was a bad idea. But there we go, GG. Next match up against Alfredino is a Vampire Counts build against his Skaven. Gonna be some pit fighters, some Giselles firing in on my single entities. I do manage to dodge just barely in time. And there are even some gutter runners here. Now, they are going to be really hard to catch. They do a lot of damage to my Vargulfs, and I'll have to pull back to make sure that they don't do too much damage. My infantry will want to slowly advance towards the Giselles. And it's just going to be getting skirmished for a while. Wow, they do a lot of damage. They hit up my knights a bit, but are they overextended? We'll have to see. There are a few single entities here, but it really depends on if I can take this fight. I'm going to try and take it since these guys are being pushed back by my knights. There is an assassin and a Grey Seer though, so things could go south. We'll just have to see. A little bit of a risk, but it could pan out. The Lord is just a Grey Seer of Plague. He is throwing down a summon, and that might catch out a few of my knights, but they do manage to escape. Still though, they've taken a ton of damage from the skirmishers, and that is definitely not an efficient trade. Let's see here. I'll pull them back now though. They are just Black Knights, thankfully enough, so it's not as much damage as it could have been, but definitely pretty rough. The Giselles will likely be able to get off most of their ammunition, given the mobility of the Skaven, and that it's a pretty quick build. There's a lot of gutter runners, so I might just try running them out of ammunition in this game instead. First things first though, I'm going to want to heal up these knights. I'm going to group them up and heck them, and hopefully that'll pick them up. Let's see here. Kemmler is also in combat, so that means I'll be getting healing AoE onto my knights. So grouping them up in this situation should work out pretty well, as long as I don't take too much damage from the gutter runners. And then once we head up into the late game, we'll see if I'm able to win against in a straight up fight. The Skaven ammunition isn't infinite, and it's really just these Skaven slave slingers that will have ammo in the late game, and they're not nearly as scary as the gutter runners. The Giselles though will be able to continue firing onto my knights. They'll be taking a good amount of damage, but it's just weathering the storm at this point. I could try and commit to try and chase down these forces, but Alfredino's kite is quite proficient, and I'd be a bit scared of overcommitting where I shouldn't be. So the continued running him out of ammunition plan will be underway. I still have my gunnery whites at high, my white kings at high HP. The knights have taken a bit of damage, but with a few overcast and a hex, I can pretty efficiently heal them up. So that's going to be the plan. Slow advance Jezzails should be about a quarter ammunition now. Maybe like 1/3. So they'll still be able to fire away. The gutter runners will be stopped by my wall of zombies. So it's going to be a slow one, guys. Indeed, it's Skaven Kite. How well will it do? A few of my skeleton spears are crumbling away too. The Jezzails are getting in pretty nice damage. But I should eventually be able to make it. I'll keep my knights in sort of a box formation too. Just so that if I want to, I'll be able to throw down that overcast and a heck. And there we go, single entities moving in. I do have the superior single entity advantage though, in the form of the Vargulfs. That's not too much of a worry. And let's take stock. The Jezzails continue to fire on my cavalry. I'll want them to be facing the Jezzails for their shielded ability to kick in. And then that should work out fairly well. A few of the gutter runners coming in. I'm going to try and bait some of their shots with the Vargulfs, and it looks like I do manage to do that. With a little bit of a dodge, I do waste one volley of their ammunition. And after all that's done, after the gutter runners are done getting in their damage, the front line is basically just Skaven slaves. So I really should have a huge advantage when it comes to the main engagement. As long as these rat ogres and double chieftain and mutant rat ogre don't cause too many problems. I also do manage to catch out a few of the gutter runners, which is really good. Looks like the Vargulfs will be able to land a few hits too. And killing off a few models here and there will be very nice for degrading their ammunition. It looks like a few shots do come into my heroes too, but getting in a very little damage works out quite well for me. Now, my cavalry, I'll want to heal them up again, as they have been getting battered by the Jezzails, but ammunition will run out soon. And as soon as the storm is weathered, we'll be good to go. Yeah, ammunition wasted on zombies is a very, very good situation for me. In fact, the balance of power is actually ebbing in my favor as the ammo slowly runs out. So I'm feeling decent here. I need to eventually corner this army too. Reducing the distance that they have to run to actually leave the map is going to be a big help. Now let's see, gutter runners are on the flanks now. Will I be able to catch them out? It's a little bit of a risky maneuver, and I have to be careful that these single entities don't punish my front line too much for whenever I chase down these gutter runners. There are a few though on this right flank that I think I can catch, so I'm actually going to start chasing them down with my knights, spreading them out and attempting to cut them off. I'll move my white kings there too to try and assist, and I'm also going to have my Vargulfs staying in this area to punish any single entities. And there we go, it looks like my knights do manage to catch out the gutter runners, and they are unsupported. So that's a pretty good pick for me. These guys are all way too far away to actually assist, and that is going to be some really nice picks. There we go. Finally a solid victory for me, and it's just riding them down at this point. The Vargulfs are defending the main line fight here, and actually a few more gutter runners are a bit out of position, and I'm going to start positioning to chase them down too. Let's go ahead and bring the Varix Weavers and the Blood Knights, and if I can kill those guys off, that will be a fairly large loss for the Skaven side. There we go, that's one unit of gutter runners now gone. The Vargulfs are going to move in on an intercept path to deal with them. And then these knights over here are going to be cycle charging some infantry. Should work out fairly well. The rat ogres are out of position. And here we go. Let's see if we can catch some more units. My knights will be pulling to the side and finding a good opportunity to charge some more gutter runners. And now with these guys out of position, my Vargulfs will be able to engage. Looks like I'll be able to get some pretty nice damage. The Vargulfs might take a bit of heat themselves, but it looks like it's still going fairly well. These knights are going to pull back since the gutter runners are actually getting in some pretty nice damage on those black knights. And I've now gotten the main engagement that I was looking for. Now, I'll still have to be very careful. These Skaven slaves will be able to buy a lot of time, or at least a decent amount of time, for these slingers to get a lot of damage. So I have to be a tiny bit careful. The gutter runners too can get a lot of damage on my Vargulfs, as you can see. And I'll have to pull back with one immediately to try and get it into a safer position. Now regretting that I didn't have the black coaches instead. But all is not lost. My White Kings are still doing pretty well. And after the infantry is gone, I should be able to secure the fight against these single entities. It'll be a big blob fight, but as long as these slingers and other range units are running away from my knights, I should be able to win this fight fairly effectively. I have a ton of single entities, and let's see if they have what it takes. My knights are charging on in, and I'm going to use the Varix Reavers to fight in this blob, while my other units of cavalry go and chase away the range units, since the ranged power is the biggest threat against my Vargulfs. Some buffs coming on in, and I'm going to summon Krell now, as this is a rather good position to do that. And he is going to be a huge help in this fight, but a huge AoE from the Storm Vermin summon actually gets in a good amount of damage. But will it be enough? I have both Vargulfs in the mix, both the White Kings too. I'm trying to focus fire, I guess, this Mutant Rat Ogre. And it's all hoping that the fight goes well. Krell will be able to use his Cloak of Mists and Shadows soon. But I'm now sort of wondering, perhaps I want to be disengaging from this position instead, given that there was the summon. And the fight is going a little bit south in the center here. So I'll pull away instead and see if I can get some better picks in the future. Some of my knights too have actually taken a bit of damage in those long engagements, and I think I stuck in the fight too long against those Storm Vermin. But still, I still have a good amount of cavalry. I can even heal them up with Kemmler, and they'll be able to chase off the rest of the Skaven forces. Meanwhile, I still have my single entity squad, and actually a huge blessing. These mutant rat ogres, or no, the pit fighters, were actually overextending due to their rampage, and I do get a few free picks there. That's pretty good for me. And now with my single entity squad, I'm going to be playing keep away from the single entities of the Skaven. I don't really want to fight them yet, and I'll wait until I can get more advantaged fights against them. The Vargulfs too will be able to punish them fairly well, whereas Kemmler, he's doing a-okay. And it looks like my knights are able to chase off the majority of the forces. Krell, though, didn't really get the big fight that he wanted. He did get a bit of damage, but I did forget I had Krell in the mix, and that's going to be a tiny bit rough. Still, though, he will be able to get a bit of damage there, and then the goal to continue is just chasing off Skaven units. I've chased off most of them at this point. There shouldn't be a ton left, and it looks like Kemmler getting charged by some ogres might be able to get a pretty good pick here with the zombie summon, but instead I'm just going to pull in some normal zombies to assist with that situation instead. So there we go. We'll see how that plays out. The Vargulfs are going to be dancing around, trying to avoid getting charged here, and then I guess the goal right now is to first kill off the pit fighters. They provide a lot of mass, and I really don't want them to be I really don't want the pit fighters to be slowing down my Vargulfs and stopping any cycle charges. As for my Vargulfs, I'm going to be pulling them away from the chieftain and the Morskatars Hellion. And then the White Kings, I think at this point, can actually dive in on the Morskatars Hellion, and hopefully I can snipe it out. Let's see, although it does pull away, and I'll have to disengage again. A summon comes down for the Skaven, and this is going to be a nice time to disengage. I don't want to stay in fights with summons for longer than I have to. And that is because I can instead just wait for them to wear down over time. And then after they disintegrate, then I should have the advantage once again, as I can use my own zombie summons to help win out the fights. Now, let's see. The Morscatar's Hellion is at half HP. It will be hard to kill off. The Rat Ogres, ROR, are pretty low too. But honestly, I'm not too sure how I want to engage this army. The Clan Rats are shielding away from my main single entity squad, but it looks like at the very least I should be able to hit up this Chieftain with the Vargulfs. And I'm going to dive in straight on top of him while the Bell is distracted. It looks like that does work out fairly well. I'm going to sacrifice a unit of Blood Knights to keep these guys busy. And then if I can get a few picks here, that'll definitely be good. The Assassin, though, is quite scary. I'm going to run back with Kemler before he takes too much damage there. And also, I've been forgetting my Scab Scraths. I could have been using that on the infantry for the Skaven a lot more often. And that might have actually caused a few problems here, but I'm still doing fairly well. I now have the advantage on summons too, and I can throw that down right on top of these guys and hopefully take them out. The goal right now is the Chieftain, since he's actually getting pretty low. I'll split off one Vargulf to kill off the Assassin so that Kemler doesn't have to worry about him. And there we go. It's finally gonna be some routes coming in from the Skaven. Chieftain is down. I have two White Kings that are very healthy, and I have two Vargulfs that are relatively healthy too. I can use them to beat down the Morscatar's Hellion, and without infantry support, the Skaven are in for a pretty rough time. Another Scab Scrath just to finish off these Skaven Slave Slingers. And finally, the long grind is over. Oh my goodness. That went for a while, but in the end, my single entities barely pulled out against the Skaven Hero Squad. The Kite was pretty punishing. The Gutter Runners got a lot of value, but they ran out of ammunition. They capped out at about 1,000. The Giselles got a lot of value too, but eventually capped out. And then it was just clean up from there. Just a huge war of attrition that I managed to pull through. Forgetting the Scab Scraths too were really bad, and that would have helped a lot. So here we go. The match up against Alfredino's Bretonia. I have a ton of skirmishers and a bunch of two Glade Captains, Drycha to pendulum the archers, and a ton of spears to try and break through the Bretonian lines. Immediately, I'm going to move up the Glade Captains, and they're going to try sniping out the Damsel of Life, or maybe some units of cavalry. They do have a ranged attack, which does help in this situation. As for the archers, you can dodge their shots pretty well, and that'll allow my Glade Riders to continue getting in the damage. Let's see, I'll still need to be very careful though that I don't take too many hits here, since those archers are pretty brutal. And I don't have any healing, so being super careful with my troops is gonna be a necessity. I'm also buying some time for my Glade Captains to get in some good damage. They're shooting at these Knights of the Realm right now, which is pretty inefficient, and I'd much rather they fire at Lewin. That'll slowly chip away his HP. Hopefully that works out okay. In the meantime, I'll continue firing at the peasant mobs. They buy a lot of time for the cavalry, and shutting them down should work out pretty well, and it will allow my spears to start chasing down a few archers. Drycha too, with her pendulums, are going to try and hit up some archers, and I want to wait for them to fire before I hit them with the pendulum. Also, that's a Lewin on the Pegasus Knight. That's very strange. But okay. Let's see if Drycha can pendulum these guys. The best time to do it is while they're reloading, since they can't easily dodge away. And there we go. That's a single unit of peasant bowmen now handled. My single entities can dance around to avoid any shots. And as long as I'm very careful that my troops don't get slowly worn away, I think I should be good. Preferably I'll want to buy more time for more pendulums though. So I'll continue to pull back from the Bretonian forces. Continue using my Glade Riders to pressure these forces too. And then just kiting back. Hopefully another pendulum will be up soon, up in 10 seconds. That's very good. And how's the damage looking so far? There are still quite a few Bretonian peasants. But now that one of them's actually routed off, I can bring in my Glade Riders to distract some of the cavalry. And what that does is it gives me some nice opportunities to actually move in and engage now. A pendulum too on top of these archers will get them really low on leadership. And if I can get a frontline fight, that would be pretty huge. So I'm going to bring in my troops. Try and dive right in onto the Bretonian lines. And then use the Glade Riders to sort of pull the Bretonians apart. A few knights come in onto the charge. Some of my infantry. That's not the worst, as I do have basically just a million spears here. And they'll be able to push back all that cavalry. My Glade Captains will have to be careful though. And I'm going to pull them back to try and find a good position to help out here. The archers will need to get shut down. That is a huge priority. And I'll be doing that with a few pendulums and a few summons with Drycha. There we go. I do manage to catch out another unit of peasants. These guys are running off. My Glade Riders are doing fairly well, but I'm actually down to just 2 units of Glade Riders now. One of them actually getting pretty compromised, which is definitely pretty scary, but I have a ton of infantry spears. And as long as the archers are gone, I feel like I should be able to pull through with the victory. So that's going to be the plan. I won't even be chasing off these peasants, just because it's so much more important to be shutting down the archers. My Glade Captains will be getting caught up in a few fights. I will want to be very careful about that, as they can get surrounded. And we'll have to see how well they do surrounded by cavalry. Knights of the Realm, with their fairly... they don't even need very high AP, since the Wood Elves, in general, are low armored. However, a big summon from Drycha does catch up these Knights of the Realm, and that's going to be working fairly well in my favor. I do have many troops around the battlefield too, and the goal is just hunting down those peasant archers, catching cavalry where I can, and hopefully pulling out the victory from there. Ignoring this hero core too, with the Glade Captains will be paramount, since I very much don't want to get caught up in a fight there and lose my single entities. That would be a hugely bad situation. Speaking of hugely bad, I also lose a few of my Glade Riders too. And I'm going to be pulling them as quickly as I can away to try and escape. They really are going to need to stay alive to pressure these peasant archers. Otherwise, all my spears are just going to get shot up. But there we go. Lewin, still at full HP, but having a hard time actually catching my troops. Looks like things are going decent. I still have a few Glade Riders alive too. I've caught up many of these units of cavalry. And hopefully I'll be able to carry out the win here. Things are going okay right now. We've been trading back and forth, but I've finally chased off some of these units of peasants. These mounted yeomen too are kiting out my Glade Captain, so I'm going to pull her back into a safer position. And then I'm going to try grouping up with some of my forces here. Specifically, I want my spears to be close together. I have a ton of Azrai spears around the map too. And actually, in the corner of the map there, that's actually where most of my forces were. It turns out I totally forgot about these guys who were chasing cavalry the whole game. That is definitely a huge misplay. But now that I've found them and that they're coming back, I'm feeling a little bit more confident. Now, these forces can cycle charge my infantry, but the whole goal of this build is that I do have my I do have my Glade Riders to distract cavalry and to make sure that I have as much time as possible to actually brace my spears and to make sure that they take as little damage as possible and just allowing me to trade out on other areas of the map. That's basically what I need to be doing to win. And there we go. I have actually chased off the rest of the archers in the distance. And essentially it's just the hero squad now up against Drycha and my 2 Glade Captains. I think I may be able to win this. Just the pulling apart of Bretonia seems to have worked out pretty well. But there are still quite a few trials. The cavalry is still fairly good. I'm still bummed out that I lost so many of my Glade Riders. And that means that cycle charging it's gonna be cycle charge city for the forces of Bretonia. They have almost free reign in that situation. And we'll have to see if I'm able to deal with this. My Glade Captains too are actually getting caught up by Lewin. And it appears they're taking 1,000,000 damage. Oh my goodness, Lewin, what an absolute beast. Gets a charge in while I'm not looking. Absolutely demolishes both of my Glade Captains. And that is really bad. Essentially, if they both go down, the only thing that can deal with Lewin are my spears. And while Azrai spears are extremely strong against characters like Lewin, and he is also just on a Pegasus too, it's still a very scary situation. If they had been normal units of spears, things would be a lot worse for sure. Now let's see what this unit of mounted yeomen are coming in too, and they will be diving in onto my group here. But thankfully they are just yeomen, and that means that most of the cavalry for Bretonia should be gone. Which means I think I've done it. Essentially it's just Lewin at this point. The Glade Captains can make sure that he doesn't actually take off into the sky. And Drycha in the midst of combat too should be able to fare pretty well. I have a ton of spears, which are very effective against Lewin. And from there, I think I've won it. Still, my captains are taking a lot of damage, and I'm actually going to pull one of them out to chase down this Damsel of Life instead. Lewin is getting quite low though. The Paladin does manage to come back, which is pretty bad. But with this huge surround, I think I'll be fine. The Damsel doesn't have any AoE, thankfully enough. And although my Glade Captain will die out to this Paladin, I think it should still be fine. I have so many Azrai spears that honestly it's not too much of a worry. This unit specifically at full HP is going to be very hard for Alfredino to deal with. He realizes it, and it's gonna be a GG. So there we go. That worked out okay. It was a ton of archers on the Bretonian side, which really helped out with my build. And the fact that I was able to pendulum most of them worked out pretty well. The Azrai spears too, look at that, actually paying for themselves without too much support. And the Glade Captains with only a minor misplay. They did get taken out, but they still served pretty well. They killed off the Paladin and got some good damage on Lewin.